Well, we're en route down to Steve's again, this time not to play with the railroad, or for that matter even see Steve, because Steve is off in Hawaii with the family for the holidays, and I don't know why anybody would want to leave Utah at Christmas time just to go to some mundane place like Hawaii. Anyway, he's there. He may be taking up surfing for a living. My only fear is that he doesn't come back at all. At any rate, Al, who is Steve's roommate, is down there, and we're going to go talk to Al about pine trees. This is because Al has been obsessed with pine trees ever since he was a child, and we'll sort of let him explain his peculiar obsession with pine trees.
Al Badham is one heck of a fine railroad modeler. This is a mill he built some time back, but he's probably best known for his pine trees. The man absolutely obsesses about scale pine trees. This is a canyon from the MRS railroad from a few years back. Al is one of the original, let's say, charter members of the O-Scale guys, the club that we have with Steve and just a small handful of us. It's a very informal club, not really a club at all. The MRS Railroad was in the MRS Hobby Shop, and it unfortunately no longer exists. What does exist is Steve's Railroad, and a lot of the pine trees on Steve's Railroad are leftovers from these older railroads.
I really got serious with trees when I got back from my little stint in graduate school and started working on an N-scale layout. And I was working with a bunch of woodland scenics. At the time, they were cast white metal trees. And no matter what I did to them, they just never looked like trees. And I tried very hard. I had previously been using willow branches from a tree in my backyard to do cribbing and log loads and some other stuff in this N-scale. And I tried one of the willow branches as a source for a trunk. The trees worked out rather well. And if you go to the website and check out Al's N-scale, you can see them. Or if you look in the back of Steve's layout up on one of the high mountains, you will see almost all of the N-scale trees I built for my N-scale layout as forced perspective trees on Steve's Rio Grande Pacific. I started fooling around with trees practically from the very first layout I built. And that goes back a few years. That was when I was a punk kid in junior high messing with an HO 4x8. My initial inspiration was a magazine that it was one of the few railroad magazines I actually had, and this is the cover is missing off it. This is the February 1963 model railroader. And it has a wonderful picture in it of a shay with a little gondola and a caboose crossing a bridge. I don't know how well you can see the trees in this picture, but they are very, very forest-like trees, rather sparsely foliated, a lot of gaps, very, very see-through. And yet there is still, if you examine the trees closely, there's green stuff all the way to the top of the tree and coming out the tip at the top.
Of course, the best way to model anything is to study the real thing, and that certainly holds true of trees. Al has spent a good deal of time studying photographs of trees and going out into the woods and looking at the darn things.
This tree started out this morning as a piece of 12-inch long willow branch, which I selected carefully because of this little broken twig down here, which will remain and will become part of the tree. A major limb broken off right at the base. The branch was tapered with a sanding block. I wasn't very patient when I tapered it. I could have tapered it more through here, but one of the things I wanted to preserve was this little knot right there. So the tapering kind of got sanded around that thing. The top of the tree is all twisted wire, right? So the final taper in the top is just a piece of very, very light gauge wire. You have a branch system that extends actually through the top of the tree into the very peak. The rest of the branches, again, are a wire, slightly heavier gauge, and you just drill a hole through and you start inserting them in thirds around the axis of the trunk.
Al certainly models more than pine trees. This is sagebrush that he's made on Steve's Railroad, and this is kind of a scrub oak. He made that by grinding leaves up in a coffee grinder. He's also got grass on this little diorama, these wonderful little tufts of grass, and they look really, really nice. But Al's best known for his pine trees. Now, we have made a DVD on how he makes these things, and you can find that on guyshobbyshop.com should you want a copy of it. Now, I couldn't help messing with his pine trees and adding my own little touch to them. And given the holiday, I thought that it would be fun to decorate them for the season. Never underestimate what can be done with Photoshop and After Effects.
Well, there you have it, Al Badham and his magnificent pine trees. He's built hundreds of these things over the years, in spite of the fact that it takes him all day to build one. But the cool thing is he can just stick on the television set, watch a little football, and build a pine tree while the game ensues. Win, lose, or draw on the football game, he ends up with a pine tree. So that's pretty cool. And they sure look great up there on Steve's Railroad, and I too have acquired a couple of these things over the years. Do pop over to guyshobbyshop.com. There's a link right on the YouTube channel. It says Guy's Hobby Shop. That's where you can find the video that Al has made on how he builds these pine trees, and you might want to investigate that. And of course, do subscribe to the channel, Toyman Television on YouTube. And if you feel like it, you can pop over to toymantelevision.com, and all the movies are over there as well. Well, I'm not sure how you found this movie on the internet. I sure as heck hope you did not find it boring. And I'll see you here again in 1 week with some more significant screwing around. See you then. Bye.